Hey, hi, I'm Peggy and Salz. We are live at Mobile Growth Summit. We're doing a day's worth of podcasts here. We're talking with people who have lessons that you can learn from. They've got some tips you need to hear, and they've got some great stories as well. Which brings me to Lomit Patel, my guest. And I'm not going to say Lomit Patel, comma. I'm just going to say an author of an amazing AI book that I've had the pleasure of reviewing and contributing a quote to. But you do a lot of other things, Lomit, as well. So Lomit, why don't you tell us a little bit about, what is that bio behind the name?
Sure. Well, thank you, Peggy. It's a pleasure to be here today. And, I currently... I'm the Vice President of Growth at IMVU, which is the world's largest avatar-based social networking app. I've been there for over 3 years, and as you'd mentioned, the new book that I've written called Lean AI, which is part of the Lean Startup series, was primarily based on a lot of success that we had at IMVU over the last 3 years. When I joined, we weren't really doing much on mobile at all, but we really ended up becoming one of the most successful apps, and a lot of that was really down to how we applied AI, data, and machine learning and automation to really...
And also at IMVU, I remember you didn't spend an awful lot on user acquisition.
No.
You had already nailed that in, what was that, like 4 years, 5 years ago?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah, so IMVU's been pretty, primarily a lot of the spend was really happening on desktop, and, for the most part, there was limited growth, so there wasn't a lot of spend that was happening, and so coming in 3 years ago, there were a couple of challenges. One was really to figure out how we're going to turn the business around, and moving into mobile was really a great decision on our part, because that really enabled us to really go after new audiences. Because a lot of our users are millennials, and as you know, most of them spend most of their time on mobile and not on desktop.
But IMVU, I mean, that's this virtual world, this app, because I've written about it several times as well. I mean, it must be at a point where you could almost call cult status. I mean, it's been around for a while. Do you keep the same audience, or do you keep on renewing that audience?
Right. Yeah, I would say, one of the things when I came into IMVU that became apparent pretty quickly is that we have such a huge loyal following of users. We've been around for over 15 years.
15 years, is it?
15
Wow.
years, yeah.
Wow.
And, one of the things that IMVU does a really good job of is primarily because social networks have really taken off, as you know, across the board. But there's also a lot of trolls and haters that kind of come out. But on IMVU, for the most part, you have that level of anonymity because you create an avatar, and nobody really knows who you are in real life.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it gives you that ability to connect with millions of users from around the world. And one of the things that we've found, is still lacking in the world is as more and more people have immersed with digital and ingrained into spending more of their life on digital, they've also become lonely in the process. And something like IMVU as well,
gives them a place
gives
to
the ability to connect with other users.
You talk about connecting. It was interesting. I was at the after party yesterday. I was thinking about you because I thought Lomit could answer this question. So, young developers, right? This is a community here as well. It's a bit of a tribe, and they're coming up and they're saying, boy, is there room out there for these types of apps that give people, a place to decorate and a place to live and take care of their avatar and dress them up? And I was like, I'm not sure. I think that that's not the case anymore. But I'm just curious: is there room out there for more apps like this?
To be honest,
it seems because you've got a community.
We've got the benefit that we have is being one of the first movers in this, and we've built up a huge community. I haven't really gone into sharing some of our stats, but over the course of the last 15 years, we've had over 200 million registered users. So we've had a huge number of users.
Where are they mostly? Any particular regions? I'm just curious.
Yeah, good question. So about 40% of those are in the US now, and 60% of those are coming globally. And a lot of our global users come primarily from Brazil and other parts of Latin America, as well as Europe. In Europe, Germany and France and the UK are pretty big for us, and we also get a lot of users that are starting to come from Asia as well.
Okay.
So it started, as you said, it has that cult following, and it's one of those places where people love to kind of create the avatar, and once they create the avatars, they start telling their friends about it. So it
then they
creates
all
that
start
virality.
to live in there,
Yeah.
and that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
I remember, beta testing Second Life, so I totally get what's going on there. I mean, I think of you as a VP of growth, and we've talked a lot in the past about how you acquire audiences. But when you think about keeping them active and understanding when they're becoming inactive, do you have some tips on that? Or, because I'm sure you're driving through the data, obviously through your AI book, you've used AI at IMVU as well. How are you using that? Is that for you like a source of truth or an early warning detection system, or is it really just about the acquisition?
So for us, it's always been about acquisition and retention.
Okay.
And I know you've really have been a big proponent of this in the industry too, where at least when early on, when I think we've known each other for over 4 years. So but I remember like even when we were talking 4 years ago, most people were just focused on user acquisition. Nobody really talked about retention. We were, I would say, in the minority. It wasn't really that popular. But it's really helped us out, because what we've been able to do is, just to answer your specific question, is continue to look at all of that data. One thing that's great with MU is we get a lot of user data, and by able to apply a lot of that data through AI and machine learning early on, we're able to detect user behaviors and actions and behaviors that ultimately were good predictors on what's going to lead to somebody who's going to stick around and become a good lifetime value user, or someone that could be at risk of churning or leaving the product. And so, we've been able to perfect a lot of our algorithms over the time. But now, what we do outside of CRM, I know a lot of people do CRM, but a lot of our CRM is really triggered based on all of this. It's all data driven. So it's based on, as an example, the first 7 days, we know certain actions that users need to take that will continue to get them more engaged in the product. Once they're more engaged, it will lead to better retention. And once they're better retained, that's when we really focus on monetization. And so in order to kind of go through those phases, we start to get pretty smart about how we want to message users as soon as they come in and what experiences.
Well, tell me a little bit about that, because everyone talks about, onboarding has to work. I fully agree. You have to take people by the hand. It's a journey. I fully get it. But talking about it and giving some real practical tips around it are two different things. So is there a certain, I wouldn't say there's ever really a formula, but are there some best practices you can share?
Sure. For us, I would say, one of the best practices really to, depending on, how you look at your data, whether you have data scientists or you actually have like AI machine learning put in place. But you can literally look at all your best lifetime value users and then try to reverse engineer what are the behaviors and actions. Look at those cohorts of the people that have really been in the product, that are really your high value users, your most loyal, engaged users. And you can literally reverse engineer and go back and look at what were the behaviors and actions that they were taking within the first 7 days, because that's really key on mobile, because you really have a small window to really get these people engaged. Because generally when people download an app, they're downloading, they on average have at least 40 apps on their phone. And so what is it about your app that they should be spending time?
They should be using it.
But you increase the odds of success if you really look at the behaviors and triggers of what has worked for users that are really engaged.
Do you let that also guide how to engage your users?
Does,
I mean, do you get a feeling like, okay, there are some people who really, really do respond to email, right?
Right.
Open secret. Others maybe even chat. Who knows? I mean, do you use that to also dictate the channels?
We do, and so we try to prioritize, based on where the users are coming from. I mean, we try to use a combination of different touch points to communicate with them. As you mentioned, I don't know why people say email isn't cool, because email is still...
Yeah, you have to almost say it like your email. What other people do. Yeah,
I know.
And you've got millennials and they're using email, which is like astounding.
No, I didn't mean you, but I meant
I meant like your
talk
audience.
To so many, email's effective because primarily a lot of people
it's true.
Are not giving it the same time and focus right now.
Yeah.
So you can get more attention through email. On top of that, we have our own chat.
Very
application.
smart. Yeah.
And so that is another
Okay.
way that we communicate, and we call it
So you
quick
can
chat.
so you were like WeChat before there was one, right?
Right. Yeah, we had created our own little chat application
Uh-huh.
back in the day, and then on top of that, we have messages within the app that we communicate with users, whether it's
Yeah.
through our different ad placements or native ads.
Yeah.
But on top of that, the cherry on the cake is really we use a lot of retargeting and re-engagement ads that we buy programmatically,
Okay.
and that enables us to hit a larger percentage of users that may not be able to see our different messages if they're not inside the app, and
Got
that
it.
kind of works well because we're able to know when somebody's not in the app, and so then we can use the re-engagement.
It's interesting that that's becoming more and more important as a theme.
Right.
I'm hearing that you have to engage with your users in the product, but now when they're not in the product, and so now it becomes even harder. Is that for you, where you're bringing AI into the picture?
Right. Yeah. I mean, for us, a good use case for AI is, is to get more strategic about how we do use paid retargeting ads, because ultimately that's a cost, right? And so we don't want to be kind of just spray and pray and just hit them with certain messages that we want to be more strategic to what you're saying. If they're not responding to some of the other touch points, then we know they're a really good candidate to be hitting with retargeting ads.
Okay.
And then specifically, what are the messages that we need to hit them with?
I mean, you're working a lot with AI, and what I'm hearing in the industry is, of course, how's that really going to play out?
Yeah.
There are a lot of marketers who feel threatened. It's almost like you have like a smarter person and they're going to show you up or something. I see it as collaborative. I'm always like the person who always sees the optimal side of it. And I'm thinking, if I have a very smart co-creating partner, there's going to be a really great result. How are you doing that at IMVU? Are you having to relearn how to work with AI? What level are you at? I mean, how far advanced is it over there?
Yeah, so at MV, I would say that we're at a really advanced stage, but coming in, the way I tried to position AI was not that it was going to be a replacement for what we have.
Yeah.
It was going to become a way where it would empower the team to work better, faster, and smarter on the execution side. And what AI has really enabled us to do is orchestrate all of these different experiments that can run across all the different user journeys, from acquisition to retention, across different wearables, on different messages that we'd want to test, the different bids that we'd want to pay, the different budgets we want to allocate, as well as the different goals that we want to add, as well as trying to get to that true personalization to a degree where it wouldn't be humanly possible.
I'm just wondering, where are we right now in that? Because I'm not a practitioner. I write about it. I talk about it, and I think, how many different campaigns are we at right now that the average growth marketer has to deal with in order to approach that personalization? It used to be before, a few years ago, oh, you're running, you're doing 50, you're doing 100. It sounds like we must be at astronomical numbers. I mean, what are you actually able to do? How are you able to scale that up with AI? What are the numbers now? How many things can you do simultaneously or in parallel?
Right. Yes.
To get an idea of the power of what's going on here. Because then we say, it's not humanly possible, but how many are needed?
Yeah. I mean, before AI, where we were doing a lot of this manually, we were probably doing a couple of hundred at most on different experiments.
Sounds about right, yeah.
But since we've been able to leverage AI to really orchestrate and run all of these different wearables that we test, we're now in the range of pretty close to 5,000 to 10,000 different variations that we can test in any given month. And then the other part that I was going to add to that, when I mentioned that we're at a more of an advanced stage, is that a lot of people that are still leveraging AI, they're leveraging it where it surfaces insights and recommendations, but they still haven't taken the final step to really empower the machine to actually go and make the changes, and we're actually allowing a machine to go and make the changes.
And why is that? Is that because it's a mindset thing, or they just have to duct tape some stuff together in the growth stack to make this happen? Why can't we let an AI make a decision?
I would say probably part of it is just fear. I think people are still...
Yeah, but it's not a self-driving car. There's not going to be a wreck if you screw it up. It's just maybe the campaign won't be as good.
That's right. Yeah. But I think outside of just kind of the fear of the unknown, I think it's more likely that they still haven't connected all the dots well. Right?
Are you doing that at IMVU? Are you giving it power?
Yeah, we're giving it power, and for us, at IMVU, we don't have a huge team, and that's the other part to us being really lean. For the most part, we have a team of like 4 to 5 people, so we couldn't humanly be able to do a lot of this. But the benefit of keeping the team small is it gets them really excited to embrace this technology,
nimble, doing things
without feeling threatened about it.
So what is I'm just curious. We talked about CRM. We talked about AI. It would be interesting to understand a little peek into the growth stack, not like the vendor pieces. Of course, if you want to mention any, that's cool. People love to hear that, what should I look at? But the pieces themselves, because there are so many pieces. I remember that famous chart from a feature it was, and it's like, that's the growth stack. It's like 10 across, 3 down. It's great to have a visualization. We have to start somewhere, but how many pieces do you need to do what you're doing?
So, I think, the growth stack that you're referencing from Andy Carvel.
Yeah, it's great.
It's great.
It's awesome.
And
someone has to put it on paper,
all together.
But wow.
But the different components for us, the key components that you need really to get started is really you need to get your data in order. And so the way we went about it at IMVU was to really identify finding a good mobile measurement partner. And so, to mention names, we ended up going with AppsFlyer.
Okay, I heard that.
Yep.
You can name them. It's cool. We're just talking about the industry. Okay, so you got them.
So we got
you need a mobile measurement partner.
And then the other partner that we looked at was to really get more granular and really understanding user behavior inside our app. And so for that, we ended up working with Lomit as our automation CRM partner, but also because they aggregate all of that granular data. Because as you've mentioned this for more than 4 years too, it's not about just the downloads, it's about what people are doing beyond the downloads. And so what we do is, we connect all of that data that we get in from AppsFlyer, all the different paid channels that we're spending with, and Lomit, and then we have our own data warehouse because we have a desktop product too. And the unique identifier to really truly understand our cross-platform usage is our user ID, which is unique, and we have unique emails for everyone as well.
That's probably really
that's how we
the
connect
secret
the dots.
sauce. Absolutely.
Yes.
That takes all the pain out of MTA, doesn't it? It's like, yes, I understand this user did that. That's probably the smart thing about it. Was that planned? Was that you, Lomit, or was that before your time? Because you're talking about like a 15-year-old company.
I know.
This was thinking.
Yeah, MVU's been pretty.
You must have known, like, someday Google's going to pull out that cookie, and we're going to be in some trouble.
I would say MVU's been forward thinking for a while, because that predated me in terms of the idea of really coming up with just one unique email, one unique user ID, and as you mentioned, the company started 15 years ago, right? And keeping with that, all along. So we've been able to go back and look at those cohorts of users that have been with us.
So quite a veteran. We've been talking also many times, Lomit, over the years. Just want to close out with a little bit of advice for people who aren't as seasoned as we are, right? For our marketers, what would you offer as some advice? They're talking about mobile growth. It's still all about growth. It's very much about creative, very much about retention, what I'm hearing today and yesterday in the sessions. Close with a little bit of advice or maybe a mantra to get us through the year.
So for me, I would say at the end of the day, always focus on the customer. Always try to be customer centric. And so whatever data you have, whether it's a lot or little, start by looking at your data and truly try to understand what the data is telling you. And then and it's not only about looking at your quantitative data, also try to do some qualitative research on that. Try to ask your users exactly to validate and verify some of the hypotheses that you have before you actually go and start investing.
Okay. And also, of course, your book, when's it coming out?
So my book is actually available now on Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah, it's available.
I wanted to have
on Kindle.
I want to have a signed copy.
Oh,
I have,
you absolutely
I have to,
are going to get a signed
Absolutely.
copy. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I would love people to check it out. It's called Lean AI, and it's on Amazon.
Absolutely. And last question. So how do they keep in touch with you, Lomit? Maybe they want to say, hey, Lomit, I really want an autographed copy. I'll pay extra for it. Who knows? You never know. How would they do that?
Sure. I'm very active on LinkedIn. You know, I love writing and sharing. So please reach out to me on LinkedIn. You know, I connect with anyone who reaches out to me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best place to connect with me.
Absolutely. And this is just one of many books, right, Lomit? I mean, I have to take a little bit of credit for telling you to unlock that inner self, right? And share your knowledge. And you've done it again here today at the podcast. So thanks for sharing again. Thanks for being my guest. And thank you, audience, for tuning in. More podcasts during the day.